Hey, it's Felicia Pride, head honey and honey child, and host of It's Good Over Here. Many of you may know, but I started as an author before transitioning to writing for the screen. And all my life, I wanted to write romance, which I've been able to do in my film and TV career. Shout out to Really Love and Tender and Look Back at It in Bel-Air. But I never got a chance to do so as an author until now. I'm so excited to announce the upcoming release of my first romance novella entitled Come Close. It's also Honey Child's first foray into publishing fiction. You can pre-order Come Close now on Amazon. Here's a quick synopsis. After years toiling in Hollywood, Amaya Ellis is finally directing her first feature film in her hometown, unexpectedly reuniting her with Kyrie Tate, her high school sweetheart, whom she hasn't seen in decades. He wasn't just the one, he was the standard. But ambitions, dreams, and the world got in the way, and their relationship fell apart. They lost touch, moved on, or so they thought. As fate brings them together, they relive their own movie of their past love and find themselves creating a new story.
I felt like when they would talk to me, they're like, don't you want to be like one of these people? And I always felt like those people were my North Star, but I don't want to be them. I've always thought, I just want to be the best Cassandra Freeman. Like no one has seen, because like I'm as funny as a Whoopi Goldberg, but okay, you want me to be as pretty as Halle Berry? That's cool. And I can have the regalness of Angela Bassett and maybe the gravity and sorrow of a vow. Like all these people they contain multitudes, but I don't want to be anybody who's already existed.
Welcome, honeys in training, and all of those who love us. I'm Felicia Pride, writer, filmmaker, and founder of media and production company Honey Child, where we tell stories that speak to Black women of a certain age with love. And you are tuning into one of our things, It's Good Over Here. It's Good Over Here is your ticket to the delicious adventures in Honeyland. It's a celebration of how good it can get on the other side of 40 across career, life, and love. In each episode, we offer inspiration and insight on aging boldly because, honey, it is good over here. Y'all, I am so excited about my guest today, Cassandra Freeman. She is an actress, entrepreneur, artist, mother, writer, wife who has been in the game for a minute. And in the last few years, she stepped into the role of an iconic, beloved television character and truly made it her own. She plays Vivian Banks, aka Aunt Viv, on Bel-Air, the dramatic retelling of the 90s sitcom Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I was honored to serve as supervising producer for the most recent season 3, which you can watch right now on Peacock. And I am so excited because Cassandra leads with joy in all that she does. And so I am so excited to have her as this week's guest on It's Good Over Here. Welcome, Cassandra.
Yeah, it is so good over here. Hey.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm so glad to have you on because I don't know if you remember this, but the first time I was able to see you up close and personal was at the Plan A Film Festival at Waco Theater, which is co-owned by Miss Tina Knowles. And it was this film festival for Black women filmmakers. And Look Back at It was screened. I was there with our star, Angel Akita Moore. And it was you and an amazing panel of other Black women actresses. Coco Jones was there, Dominique Fishback, Novi Brown. And we got to screen our films in front of y'all. And then there was this amazing panel where you talked about everything from the business to personal lives. And I remember one thing that you mentioned that was so striking to me. Well, first of all, I was like, who is this regal woman? You were so regal. You know what I mean? I had known your work, but that was acting. This was you on the panel. So I wasn't familiar with you in that way. And you were so regal and so sophisticated. And you mentioned how the visibility of Michelle Obama opened up roles for you and opened up sort of the industry for you. And I thought that was so striking. I'm like, wow, when we think about representation, it is all connected, interconnected. And so I want to go back because you are not an overnight sensation. You have been doing this for a long time. I want to take us back to the beginning of your acting career. Number one, what made you even get into acting? And what do you love about acting?
Honey, you said so much. First of all, that is so kind of you to say that you thought I was regal. And
yes.
It's so funny because I don't see myself like that, but I get that people see me like that.
Yeah.
but that's because of who I am and from where I am from, the people, my ancestors, my lineage where I come from.
Where's that? Talk a
I'm
little
from
bit about
Florida, but you know,
Okay.
there's something in the water in West Palm Beach, Florida. So I'm from West Palm Beach, Florida. That's where I was
Yeah.
born. I grew up there for the first 5-6 years of my life before my parents divorced. And then I was raised mostly by my dad up in Jacksonville, Florida. Very different. Duval versus West Palm Beach is very different. And
Yeah.
so I feel like, I wouldn't say poor, but definitely we didn't have doorknobs. There's a ditch in the back. You know, I grew up
Yeah.
very meager.
Yeah.
But then I'd go visit my mom and her side of the family, and they were like the living Aunt Phil, you know, Uncle Phil, Aunt Viv.
So it's like that dichotomy.
Yeah. And so even though my surroundings when I went home were impoverished for sure, it never felt like that was me. I always felt like I was like, oh no, but this is my mom. She's an entrepreneur. My father's the first Black television news reporter. I grew up around politicians coming to our house, like the best of Black people in Jacksonville would come to our house and in West Palm Beach.
Amazing. I love that.
So I grew up thinking I was going to be Shirley Chisholm.
Oh, look at you. Well, we're going to talk about how that's come full, some full circle there. Yes.
Yes, honey. And can I tell you, Regina King killed it. Oh, God bless her soul. She was fantastic.
She is amazing.
She was amazing. And Terrence Howard was amazing. Andre Holland, she did a fantastic job with that film.
Yeah.
And Shirley Chisholm is very close to my identity. You know, she's so,
yeah.
But I guess what's the question?
How did you pivot thinking you were going to be Shirley Chisholm and then?
Yeah. So, I always say that there were 3 Ps. I was going to be a politician, a pastor, a performer. And I feel like a performer allowed me to have all 3 at once.
All 3, yes.
So when I was younger, I used to go to church every day that ended in a Y. I would want to be in church. I was like such a Bible believing girl. I thought I wanted to be a nun. Then I thought about being a pastor. I just loved the whole idea of spirit and surrendering to that.
Yeah.
And then I got older and I feel like a lot of things happened in the church that I didn't agree with. A lot of philosophical things that religion did not ring true for me anymore. And so then
can we talk about that for a minute? Because there's a grief sometimes there. Did you feel any grief or heartbreak or?
Yeah, I had some heartbreak around that a little bit. There was a great pastor in our world in Jacksonville, and the way he reached out to me was one I won't forget. I probably only told this story once ever. I was like, this is back during AOL, where you could message people. And this man messaged me. And the feeling of these messages did not feel like of God. And I won't forget, I said, I was looking out at the moon and the moon looked like it was shining like a cross. And I said, when you look out at the moon, what do you see? And he's like, I see a moon. And to me, that was like, oh, so you're not of God, because obviously it was like the cross to me. And I was like, and now we are done. But it wasn't, I shouldn't even say a grief. In a way, it felt like a release to the idea of expansiveness. My dad used to always tell me, never believe in a God that doesn't look like you. And so I was always sort of searching for like this deeper, greater meaning in life. And so the book wasn't as expansive as I needed it to be philosophically, especially around a woman. And so then I thought about politics and I was like, okay, now politics, Shirley Chisholm, who should I be following? I'm gonna go to Georgetown University one day.
Yes.
And then I went, my stepmom had people up in DC and I would go up there in the summertime. And I talked to a woman who was a professor at Georgetown. And this woman changed the trajectory of my life. And she was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I'm going to be the first Black female president. And I said, it's probably 15, 16 years old. And she was like, I wouldn't wish that job on my worst enemy. And I was like, huh?
Was this a Black woman?
Yes, it was.
Ooh.
And this is why we got to be careful what we say to people. But she, who knows if she saved me, because who knows, you can't have 2 lives at the same time.
Yeah.
But when she said that, we had a conversation and she talked about it's not as expansive as you hope that you can do in that kind of career. And so it made me sort of think about like, how do you affect culture change? And the next thing you know, it was high school and it was time to audition. There was the regular high school, which was Rains and Ribault, which is like where all the kids in my neighborhood would go to, or you could audition to go to the arts high school.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing in me said that Rains and Ribault was for me. I was that Black girl that people thought acted too white, I talked too white, or like all these things.
There.
And I was like, I'm gonna have to spend 4 more years with people who just gonna beat me up emotionally. And I heard about this school called Douglas Anderson School of the Arts in Jacksonville. And I heard that the kids there could just be themselves and no one was fighting there, because if you fought, you get kicked out. And I was like, this sounds like my kind of place. So I had never done acting before then, but I just did a monologue from A Raisin in the Sun. Did it totally incorrect. It was like there's a beneath the monologue where she says, me, I'm nothing me. When I was a little girl, I used to dream about, I used to put snow on the stairs of my steps and go up and down. And basically it's a monologue about the day she realized she wanted to be a doctor. But because I didn't read the play and just read that monologue, I thought that monologue was her at like 6 years old. So I was like, me, I'm nothing me. When I was a little girl, I used to pack snow in here and da-da-da-da-da-da. And the head of the department was like,
this is an interpretation.
This isn't it. But God bless her, she could see like I committed to an idea. And that was the last and only time that woman really ever believed in me as an actress was that day. And then after that, the entire rest of my career until I got to NYU for grad school was a life of people being like, why are you here? There's no room for you. We do not need you. Go to the back of the line. Go do the costumes. Go do props.
Now, why do you feel that is, racism and sexism aside, why do you feel that is? And how did you keep pushing?
I think one is it's Florida and they're not necessary at that time, and probably still in Florida. They're not if you're doing Crucible, you're going to do it with an all white cast. If you're doing Fiddler on the Roof, maybe you'll let the boy play Taylor, a Black boy play Taylor, but you're not going to let the girl. So I always noticed the Black boys might get fitted in and get praise, but not the Black girls. And I find in general, once you don't pass the paper bag test of Blackness, you totally are invisible to people. And I see this today, I have a million examples of that, but you become invisible to people. So you either decide to get smaller or you constantly seek out where do you feel light and warmth. So I'm thankful for that, because my career has never been based on ego, based on people saying I'm the best. It's always been based on, does it give me joy? Do I feel like this sits at the truth of what I'm trying to express? And my entire career is basically me playing roles that felt exactly the sort of story I wanted to tell at that time, or certain personality I wanted to express. So even in Tallahassee, when I went there to Florida State, I never did a play. Maybe I did one play at Florida State, but everything else was like the Traveling Shakespeare Company, the community theater, like everything else around Florida State. And then if I did do anything at FSU, I played the maid or the hooker, you know what I'm saying? But nothing expansive, but everything else maybe a little bit more. And so when I went off to audition for grad school, long story short, I remember when I went there, my Florida State teachers were like, no one here has ever gotten to NYU for grad school. So this is surely a waste of your time.
Well, first of all, who is that a reflection of would be my question, but okay.
Hunting. But I was like, but there is something about my life where when people would say these things, it would just roll. It just never felt like they were talking about me. I always just felt like, but they haven't met me. There is something great about being ignorant and
I love that so much.
Direction
or
driven.
Just like so strong internally and focused on what you know to be true about yourself that their thoughts don't really matter.
Resonate. They don't. They just didn't resonate. But like when the woman said the thing about the president, I was like, oh, yeah, that resonates. That makes sense. But this over here, I won't forget, I went off to London and I saw a play. It was Jitney. And it was playing at the National Theater, and Stephen McKinley Henderson, and all the great Shakespeare actors were in this show. And I somehow got backstage because I'm Black and people just assumed I must be a part of the cast or something. And I'm like, y'all, how do I get to be great like you? And so many of those people, Yvette Garnier, one of them, an amazing Black actress, was like, you should go to Yale at NYU. And I was like, oh,
Oh,
yeah, that sounds right. She's like, yeah, that's where you should
yeah.
go. And like this thing opened, I was like, well, that's what I'm gonna do. So I only auditioned for 2 schools, Yale and NYU. And when I got to NYU, it felt like home. And the head of the department at that time, Ron Van Loo, was like, oh, welcome, Cassandra Freeman. Oh, yes. It just felt like he was like, oh, I see you. Welcome. Oh, you're
Yes.
from Florida. This is why your resume looks like this, because Florida. Whereas I went to Yale to audition, they were like, why do you think you've only been doing maids and prostitutes? And I said, because I'm from Florida. And they're like, maybe, but
Yeah.
maybe not. Maybe
Yeah.
because you're not worthy. But at NYU, they were like, oh, honey, of course, you're from Florida. Come here, come here,
Yeah.
come here.
Oh,
And
I
that was the
love that.
beginning of, I had a hard time at NYU as well, but they definitely set the stage for me to play so many fun, expansive characters. I feel like they believed, they were the first place where they were like, however you think of yourself, we think even more. Like you could define more, be more.
And we don't have a lot of spaces like that for Black women at all, period. So that's amazing that at least you felt that, even through the difficulty of the experience, that you felt some space.
Yeah, the space was, and I would love to hear their opinion, because it's how you experience it and then them. And I'm sure I'm totally open to being wrong about this. But to me, I felt like they thought I could only be one of the Black women they deem was great. So I could only be Angela Bassett, Viola Davis, Halle Berry. I felt like when they would talk to me, they're like, don't you want to be like one of these people? And I always felt like those people were my North Star, but I don't want to be them. I've always thought, oh, I just want to be the best Cassandra Freeman. Like no one has seen, because like I'm as funny as a Whoopi Goldberg, but okay, you want me to be as pretty as Halle Berry? That's cool. And I can have the regalness of Angela Bassett and maybe the gravity and sorrow of a Violet. Like all these people they contain multitudes, but I don't want to be anybody who's already existed. And I thought as a teacher, and I've taught acting off and on in my career, that the best gift you can give someone is to figure out who are you, like that thing, and that is your trademark. Don't go be Julia Roberts. She already done the Julia Roberts thing.
And she's good at it.
She good. And if you do it, they just gonna say you imitation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I think that's a good thing to talk about, especially with Black women and Black people, that, these institutions, they like choose a few of us, and then they want us to fit in those molds of those few. And I find it very...
I think that's true for everyone, though. I think it's true for the white women, and maybe not so much the white men, too. It's like white men, it's like you're crazy and interesting. It's like, oh, he's vanguard. But Black, for sure. You listen to John Baptiste when he was at Juilliard, and he's over there playing this mouthpiece, like piano that it's a mouthpiece, but it has a piano. It's like a very specific, and they just thought like, how ridiculous is that? Instead of saying like, oh, this could be like a specific kind of genius, like institutions in general, which are like corporations, don't do well with they do well with what is a known quantity now. Instead of being like, we should be on the lookout for like visionaries, but many of those people are not visionaries themselves. So it's hard for them to identify it.
That piece. Well, I want to talk about some of these roles, because I know that you talk a lot about and give credit to your role playing Kevin Durant's mom in the Lifetime movie, The Real MVP, The Wanda Durant Story. I want to talk a little bit about that role and how you felt like it impacted your journey.
Oh, it really did. First of all, can I tell you, amen, that I was mighty sad around that time. I feel like I hadn't worked maybe for a full year, maybe almost a year and a half.
Yeah.
And, I'm coming down to the end of my money. I'm here in New York City.
Yeah.
And when you come to the end, you're just like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Was I even waiting tables? I don't think I was even waiting tables anymore. But whatever I was doing, it wasn't equaling up to my vision. And I won't forget that audition coming in was through Shelby Stone, an amazing producer who had produced me in Single Ladies. She's such an incredible
Which
person.
I love Single Ladies, honey.
Yes, right. What a fun show. Oh my God.
So fun. I loved it.
It was so divine.
And I feel like one of the characters' names was Felicia as well. So
yes, that's right. Yes. And there's another actress who ended up coming in but yes. So I won't forget. I tell this story all the time because it's so important. I won't forget Shelby sending me a text message saying, Cassie, I'm going to send you this script. There's this movie I'm producing. I'd love for you to read for it. And I was so depressed that I was like, oh, she's just sending this because she knows I could never do it. And then I thought, why is she making me audition? She already knows what I can do. And then I see the pages. And it must have been 13 pages. And I'm like, why do they want me to audition on 13 pages, dear Jesus? And long story short, I was like, this was the beginning. Sometimes the worst days of your life are the beginning of your life to figure out it becomes like the new way to begin again. And that was the day I discovered this principle called the reset. And I told myself, just pretend like you've never auditioned before. And this is like this is a great opportunity. Like just pretend. Just play the reset game. Like be grateful that this is even here. And I'm so grateful I did. And my friend Nelson George was directing it. And
I didn't know Nelson George directed it.
He certainly did.
Amazing.
And he and I had worked together before that. Yeah, we'd worked together twice before that on like theater sort of projects. And I'd helped produce something with him at the public theater. So to see his name and her name, still, I was like, they're not giving this to me. Look at this. They're just doing this so that way I don't feel like they just forgot about me. Anyway, when I got that role and Shelby called me up, I was like, oh. And I was like, first of all, may I always remember that the blessing is to be given the opportunity. The blessing is just the opportunity, whether you get it or not. Yeah. But the blessing is the opportunity. And then I get to be the producer and the director and just show my idea. That's all. And so that's how I look at all these things now. And that movie, first of all, was cast so brilliantly. Like Pauletta Washington was in it. Daniel Bellamy was in it. Uncle Phil was in it. Adrian was in it. But that movie transformed my idea of what I thought motherhood was. And that's the movie that made me become a mother. Before that, it wasn't even on my bingo card. And then doing that movie and understanding Wanda Durant's journey of raising Kevin Durant, what I really realized was like the most artistic thing, if you're up for it, is probably to raise a kid, because you get to play so many characters. You get to dive into so many like treasure boxes of like tricks and tools and things. And that is exactly what motherhood has been like. Sometimes it's a great failure and you're like, Lord, I lost today. But overall, I feel like, I get to use every tool and I get to see right then and there, does this work? It's been so fun.
Well, I think that's so amazing. First of all, I've never heard anyone describe motherhood like that. It almost sounds very appealing to me. So I love that. But just also the connection between the art. I have a friend of mine who's a producer who mentioned, like, she was creating something. She was pregnant. So she was like, of course, I'm not as creative in other aspects of her life because I'm actively creating something right now. So I love the connection between motherhood and creativity and creation and all of that.
And intuition, like your life. I mean, writers, actors, it's all like you're opening yourself to some muses that lead you. That is literally parenthood. You see your child do this and you're like, that's what I think about Wanda Durant in the movie. She says she saw her kids playing with Kevin playing with matchboxes, and he somehow with the matchbox was playing like basketball with it. She was like, oh, look at that. Let's put him in a basketball camp. Okay. And that is exactly motherhood. You see your child. My son came to me yesterday and he was like, there's no place where I'm allowed just to be violent. And I was like, you know what? All the feelings are allowed, and you're right.
I feel that for him. I feel that myself. I'm like, where can I express this rage?
There's so many places to express. So I said, what we're going to do right now? I'm going to set up on a whole obstacle course in the house. We got this punching bag. We're going to put these gloves on. You're going to hit. We're going to scream if you want. We're going to get it out. And we're going to find you a class. Like, it's about constantly trying to direct things in a positive way. It's so much. It's fun and exhausting.
I love that. Well, then, okay, so you're Kevin Durant's mother in 2016. Then fast forward some years, how did Bel-Air come about? Acting on your ideas is a form of self-love. And when I decided to write the Creative Comeback Workbook and Journal, it was with you in mind. Storytellers with stories inside of you that you need to get out into the world. But life, fear, uncertainty has a way of leaving us stuck. But no more. It's time to reclaim our creative practice and get unstuck. The Creative Comeback Workbook and Journal can help you get back on creative track. 30 days of dynamic prompts, exercises to stimulate creativity, alongside motivational quotes, journal pages, and more. If you're ready to create again, get your copy of the Creative Comeback Workbook and Journal today at creativecomeback.com. That's creativecomeback.com. Because it's never too late to become the artist you always wanted to be.
Bel-Air came about. Well, you know what? I like to give props to Malcolm D. Lee for Bel-Air. And every time I see Malcolm, I just get I get so excited, okay? Because Malcolm had a TV show that again, you got to trust the process, because he had a show called At That Age was the name of it. And it's crazy to me it didn't go. Adrian was in that.
Oh, wow. So you and Adrian have been working together for a minute.
I'm trying to tell you, Adrian keep following me. Adrian played the lead in that. So Emmy Yahtzee was in that, who's now on Reasonable Doubt.
Reasonable Doubt, yes.
Jada Shett was in it, a good friend of mine who's brilliant, who was in Black Cake.
She was in Really Love. She played in my movie Really Love.
Jada Shett.
Yes.
I loved it. Okay, thank you.
Amazing.
See what I'm saying? Amazing. I think Sinqua might have been in there. Just so many great actors, and homeboy from A Different World was in it too. The Colonel, Glenn Turman. Yes. Yeah. When I tell you, so many people were in this thing, and it's like, and I almost turned the part down over money. And side story, I almost turned this project down because of money, and I did turn it down. And I was like, no, because they were going to pay me the basement fee, and I thought, how long do I have to be in this industry?
In this basement, I need to get out this basement.
I was like, that's all right, I'll pass. And my people thought I was crazy. And I was like, no, I'll pass. And they're like, huh? And the casting people were like, well, we can't find more money. So she's just passing. I said, yep, I'm passing. So they tried to cast it for like another week or two. And then they came back and they're like, okay, the director wants to speak to you, okay, about reconsidering, but do not talk about money. And I was like, all right. And so Malcolm gets on the phone, and I was like, Malcolm, we just skip to it. Listen, I can't be doing this for $2 when I know how much everybody else, I'm your biggest fan out here. And to Malcolm's credit, Malcolm found money from heaven. I don't know.
Yes.
But I so appreciate him, because you know how many times other people could have gaslit me, being like, well, who do you think you are? And instead he was like, yeah, no, you know what? You're right. We'll figure it out. Just trust me. And I was like, fine, I trust you. And he held my hand through that. And then I get there, and it's Deborah Martin Chase, who's a legend. And the showrunner was Carla Waddles.
Are you serious? The showrunner of Bel-Air for season 3 and part of season 2. That's right. My showrunner, amazing. She's amazing.
She's
amazing. We can talk about Carla for a minute, but yeah.
Day we could talk about. So anyway, I'm on set, and funny enough, she wasn't on set when I shot. So I just see her on FaceTime. She's like, hello, I'm just so happy. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm so happy to be here, la, 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 la. And I was playing Adrian's mistress in this show, and Nicole Ari Parker was playing his wife. And on the first day I showed up on set, and I see Nicole, and I see me, and I see Adrian. I was like, y'all, now you know I should be his wife. This is so crazy. Nicole, you know you the other woman. How you get here? Anyway, that show did not go. And we were shocked. And like, I looked at I think less than 2 months later, Bel-Air popped up. And I get a call, and they're like, oh, they want to see you for this. And I was like, this is a waste of time. I'm never going to be Aunt Viv. And they're like, can you put yourself on tape? No.
Now, why did you think you would never be Aunt Viv?
Aunt Viv. First of all, Janet Hubert is Aunt Viv. Okay. Like literally, it's so hard to be a Black woman. Like the first thing I thought about was, I don't even have the right wig with me. I'm out of town. Like, what are we talking about?
That's a real thing.
That's really like
real.
And also
Yeah.
I just felt like 90s. Also, I didn't know if I even believed in the idea of the show. And then I had to
Mm-hmm.
go watch the trailer and I was like, oh, yeah, no, that is good. And then
Mm-hmm.
finally my manager at that time, he was like, just put anything on tape. And I said, okay, but it's just going to be my version and they're not going to want this version. Okay.
Mm.
And my version, I just thought she'd be funny, but still
Mm-hmm.
warm. But I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't going to do this type of. I thought maybe I needed to be like Juilliard and talk like
Yes.
this,
Yeah.
and I was like, that just seems sort of interesting. I think
Yeah.
this is a woman who's still from Philadelphia who just
From
happens
West
to move to
Philly
Bel-Air.
still. Yep.
And so anyway, I put that on tape, and like 2 days later, they're like, yeah, the producers just want to talk to you, and I was like, you mean a call back? They're like, no, they just want to talk to you, and I'm like, really? So I show up to that, and it was Morgan Cooper, and the showrunner at that time was Rashid Newsom. And
Yeah.
it was literally just a conversation. And most of the conversation was about, do you like young people? And I was like, yeah, I'm a professor at Fordham University for the last decade. I've taught at many universities. I love young people. I love
Yeah.
college age people. Those are my favorite. Okay, you learn so much. And they're like, and they just wanted to make sure whoever they brought on would, I guess, be okay with these children. But anyway, I got on a plane to Greece the next day because I was like, this role is not for me. This is nice. I
You
said, good luck to
still
y'all.
not. I'm like, had the producers meeting. You still like, no.
Yeah, because can I tell you, I just auditioned for one of the new leads on another huge show. And the producer, who's a very big name person, sat on that. And he was like, this role is yours. It's yours. It's yours. Oh my
Yeah.
God. And then the next day they're like, pass. And I'm like,
It was.
I just had the
Yeah.
producer.
I feel that. I feel that managing expectations and yes.
So you just learn to have thick skin and be unattached. So I was just so unattached. And Aunt Viv just seemed, so anyway, I went off to Greece and my people were like, what are you talking about? I was like, yep, I'm on a plane. I'm here. And they were like, what if they call you back? Well, they're gonna have to do it from Greece.
Yeah.
And sure enough, my second day, they're like, can you do a chemistry read with a couple of our Uncle Phils? And I was like, these people are wasting my time. I'm like, I'm in Greece. The time difference is like 14 hours. They're like, we shall make it work.
Wow.
And they did. They made it work. And then on the day of, they were like, just one Uncle Phil. And I was like, fine. And I threw myself together, left the beach, and there was Adrian on the Zoom. And I was like, huh? And I was like, it's Adrian. And he hates when I say this, but when I saw Adrian's face, I was like, first of all, this is the loser's lounge, okay? Because ain't no way Adrian is the new Uncle Phil. Does he look like James Avery to you? Nope. Pass. and then they say action. And then he starts acting. And I was like, his audition, I hope they need to go find that.
Yes, I would love to see it.
Was so grounded and beautiful and sexy and warm and patriarchy of the family vibes. And I was like, oh, he Uncle Phil, but I'm not Aunt Viv. So they just wasted my time. These people, okay. And I won't forget, Vicki Thomas was on the phone. And she was like, yeah, Cassandra, was great. Can you do one version, but, Michelle Obama? And I was like, oh, I know Michelle Obama vibes. And I just did my Michelle Obama vibes, which is just me on a good day. And then they had us improv, and our improv was so fun, but still I didn't think it was me, but I thought, oh, that would have been great. But good on Adrian.
Back to the beach in Greece.
Oh, girl, back to the beach. And then 3 a.m., I get a text message from my people and my manager screaming that I'm the new Aunt Viv. And I'm like, really? Girl, nobody's more surprised than me. But when I saw the first episode of this show, when we all got to see it together, I was like, oh, I see it.
Yes.
Something about the voice, the warmth. I'm like, oh, because believe me, I'm my own worst critic. So it's nothing but God.
I can tell. I can tell. But I wonder, did you have the pressure? Did you feel the pressure that this was such an iconic role going into it? Did you feel that pressure? And like you said, Janet Hubert is up here. Did you feel that pressure?
I felt the pressure during the audition process, which is why I was like, this is not for me. Like, who they gonna get to do that? I couldn't even imagine who they'd find. Yeah. But then when I got on set and booked it, the producers were like, we're not attached to that at all. And I said to them, I wonder if they asked me a question about, like, why? Because I was sort of negative or whatever. And they were like, where's this coming from? And I said, my problem with these kind of characters is that they're so reductive. Like, I'm just going to come on and be the mom. And I'm just not, they're like, no. We are interested in the full expansiveness of like, who is a woman at this time in her life.
Yes.
And when they told me about what they wanted to do, then I was like, oh, so maybe I can paint with more than just 2 colors. They're like, absolutely. They're like, go as far as you want. And so that's what happened. But I didn't really think about the pressure of that till the night before the first episode came out for everyone else to see. And that night, I had like a small, tiny panic attack. But people started watching 5 a.m. as soon as it dropped. And people were so, like, for the first season, every week, Aunt Viv trended. And people just trended about how happy they were with this Aunt Viv, which just made me feel like people even noticing me. And then I was like, I should have taken this more seriously. But I'm so happy because when we got into the room, you really don't have time to think like, oh, is it going to be good? I'm just thinking about moment to moment. Like, is this ringing true? Does this feel truthful?
Yeah.
That's it.
I love that so much. And you got to have a lot of fun on this most recent season, on season 3. Season 3. You got to go out with your girls. You got to hang out in Mexico.
Yes.
You and your husband, you and Uncle Phil got to have some really deep conversations. Of course I'm biased, but speaking as a fan of the show, I love the opportunity to see this Black woman having the multitudes that you're talking about, right? Her career, being a mother, questioning her own mothering skills because of her son and her son's addiction. But then also being able to have these friendships with these women, being able to explore sexuality. Like, I just felt like it was so layered because we don't get to see all of that, especially couched in a Black family drama. First of all, there ain't just ain't many Black family dramas, period, on television. That's number one. Just a straight Black family drama that doesn't have a procedural element to it. So I just love being able to see Aunt Viv in all of her glory.
I feel the same way. Like, even to watch the show from the very first season, I just felt so, even though it's me, I don't feel connected to the me up there on the screen. It just felt like, I feel how I think a lot of people come up to me. I just feel so like, I feel like the writers of this show really seem to care about people being truly seen and understood and not being perfect and assuming the best, and that forgiveness and grace and love can live in a family. And I feel that for Aunt Viv, from the first season where she didn't know which way was up, I'm just so happy it's not the trope of like her just trying to be a strong Black woman. Yeah. It's because she was messy, like a lot of messiness in Aunt Viv's life.
She's showing up at people's workplaces. I said, oh,
yes. Right. But even from the first season with she and Michael Ealy, but then the radical conversations that happen every season. Like you said, she's not a perfect mom, but she's got the grace to face what she's not good at, like her figuring out herself as an artist, as a woman. This season, especially, I felt like, I don't know, you see it anywhere else ever in TV history, to see a woman like actually try to figure out her sexuality, motherhood, wifedom, and like talk it out without being crucified by her husband. My favorite episode this season, there were many favorite moments. And like one of my favorite moments was when she says to him, it felt good that someone else thought I was beautiful. That episode meant so much to me because so many women, I feel like it like took the dust off of marriage. Episode 5. And then, like you said, but then you got to see her let loose with her friends, and literally Mary J. Blige playing. It's like the epitome, and all those different types of friends. And you know what I loved about that was like the girlfriend who's like the wild friend. Is like you have the friends who represent the many parts of yourself. And it's like, oh, thank God that friend showed up. Will someone loosen up Aunt Viv? Like, Well, someone be like, girl, can we go beat this girl's ass? Like, girl, can you?
I love that. I mean, that was episode 4. I did write it. And I just
Yes.
watching y'all in it in that moment where just at the end, and you guys were like ad-libbing, just like, can we beat her up next week? Can you? And it just was like,
My
it just felt so true of women of a certain age who are still vibrant, but also tired, but also like have these beautiful friendships where they can be honest. Like, I just really love that moment.
I feel like as Black women can never get too much of that. And, you know, when I heard you were a part of the season, I was so excited. The first thing Carla said was like, we've got this new person, Felicia, you're going to love her.
Ooh.
Like, she really understands how to write for Black women. And then I did research and I was like, oh, we're going to have a good time. Then your episode, and I was like, oh, it's going to. And it's just like, you know, representation matters at every single part of storytelling. It really does, you know. And my life has been about being lucky enough to have people who like care that the words that they put in my mouth make sense, but also listen to how I speak. So I read that script and I was like, oh, well, we can just go shoot this right now. This all made good sense. But also this season did such a great job. Every writer this season did a balance beam of tension, of how it feels not to get things right. Like you can't walk like you know the next step. And that's why I love this season every season, but this season for sure. In every direction, it was like, is this okay? I'm going to fake it and hope I land forward. Anything that makes us not strong. I always say, if I'm too strong, it's easy to break me. Let me be fragile. Let me be confused.
Let me be fragile. Yes, honey. The other thing that I love is that, you know, Aunt Viv is a visual artist on the show, and you are a visual artist. So I want to talk about this adventure of your artwork and how you became, like how you started, and what kind of visual artist. First of all, painter, right?
I'm an abstract expressionist.
Okay. So how
artist.
You got started painting and how you found your voice through visual art. Because I'm a budding collector, but I love the freeness of visual art. I love there's like no boundaries and the lack of boundaries. I love also the autonomy of it, having, being in a space where there's so many decision makers that chime in. It feels like this is like much more closer to the artist's vision. So I would love to hear about your venture in visual arts.
You know, it's so funny. I would have never told anyone I was a visual artist. But every time I was in a gallery, every time I saw an easel, every time I saw paint, I'd get this feeling in me of like, I must touch it. I must do something with it. And then finally, I would dabble and do like little things here and there, but nothing for real. And then I live in Brooklyn, New York, but I shoot the show Bel-Air, obviously, in Los Angeles. And I would have 2 weeks at a time without my family around because my husband and child are based in New York. Yeah. And so at first I would go in and out of these like mini depressions of like, like, who am I? I'm so thankful to God to have the silence to know who I am when my family is not around, because the devastation that can hit you when your kids go off to school, like I get it now, the empty nest thing, like if I'm feeling it now when I'm like, oh, I have 2-3 weeks and no one's here, what will it feel like? So to be able to be like, no, I have to know what brings me joy with no one else around. Like, and joy doesn't have to be in the doing of taking care of someone. And there's a hormone that gets dropped in here when you're a mother. Or any type of caregiver. If you caregive a lot, there's a hormone that drops in that says you feel accomplished when being at the beck and call of someone. So to be able to transform that and be like, how am I at the beck and call of myself? And it makes me almost want to cry. And one day it was like, I have to go. At first it was like, I would ask the art deck people at Bel-Air, like, can I just take this notepad home? And they're like, yeah, we don't care. Then it'll be like, oh, this crepe pod. Do you want this one crepe pod? Because off to the side on the set, that's what I would just be doodling. And then finally, when my family was out of town, I was like, I'm just going to go to an art store. And when I tell you, it felt like someone's going to call the police on me. Like, how dare you, woman? Only professionals. Anyway.
Was it like some sort of imposter syndrome happening?
Of course, because who am I to go buy paints? Who am I? And then I just started by paints and papers and just started to play around. And bless my husband and my son, every time they'd see my stuff, they'd be like, you did this? This is good. This is good, Mom. And my husband would be like, that's actually very good. I was like, whatever, y'all. Like, it could just be like, I'm doing this for myself. It's the perfect meditation. First of all, when you are painting, there's no room to think about anything else. All you're thinking about is, does this move me? Painting, it's like, it's the same metaphor that people use around people who make things out of marble. They're saying like the image is inside the stone. It's not the decision. And that's true for me as an abstract artist. It's like, I don't know what's going to happen. And then these things start to appear and then a theme happens and you're like, oh, and it tells you which direction it wants to go in. And then you start to go on this ride. And what it has taught me is there are no wrong turns. Like every turn can be made beautiful. Ooh. Everything that you think is a mistake will be made beautiful. Like at the end of it, you will forget that any of it was ever a mistake.
And it's also that surrender piece you talked about, right? Like you're surrendering to where the art is taking you, which I love.
Honey, and this is true for life. Yeah. And I feel like it has like set me free in life of like when the call doesn't happen, when the thing doesn't, it's like, oh, it's fine because it's going to be made for good. Yeah. Like that is the testament in paint. Like everything is for the good. And so it has released me a lot in my life.
Everything is for the good. I love that. I love that. You're very much like me. You're an artist. You're an actress, but then you're also an entrepreneur. So I want to talk about your business, Creatricity. Tell us about it. Tell us how you got started with it. And also, let's talk about entrepreneurship a little bit because it can be very gratifying, but it can be very, very difficult. Very, very difficult.
Isn't it funny? Entrepreneurship sounds so sexy to people, but it's a 24-hour job. Like,
talk about it, honey. Talk about it.
It is 24 hours. Who wants to if you don't have a vision, do not do it, baby. Okay? Because
a strong conviction. Yeah.
Why would you? When I first started, I kept saying, I hope somebody else does this. Like, I hope someone else creates this idea so I can put it down and be like, oh, you're doing it. Child, I'm going to tap out. So, Creatricity is at its core. Mm-hmm. The easiest way for me to say it is, we just here to help people connect the dots faster for people who are in the entertainment and media industry. Okay, that's basically what it is. And so I say that because
which is necessary.
It takes people 7 to 10 years to try to do their projects. And that's just because they're 1 or 2 phone calls away from the right person.
Yes.
So at Creatricity, we're like, forget that. We throw events all year long in LA and New York, and they're some of the most incredible people. It's highly curated, and every person in the room are vetted people in the industry. There's no one in there who's like, I just got here yesterday. Yeah. Those people are great too, and those are separate events, but mostly our events are like the president of Mattel will be speaking. The president of this production company is speaking. Yes. People from Hulu or Amazon are in the room, or maybe people like Cadillac and Toyota are in the room.
Yes.
So we're about bringing the best people in the room so people can make whatever they're trying to make. And so one part of it is because people love calling me up, asking me, hey, do you know an Asian director? Hey, do you know a female Indian producer? Like people are looking for such specific, and there is no elegant place to find that. So that's one. But the second thing is it really just started from back in the old days when we used to go audition in person. I would bump into my favorite people in the audition room. And I used to be like, yo, someone should bring us all together to hang out. And people were like, yeah. And I kept saying, I was like, who gonna bring us together? I'm like, am I the only one? So then I threw a Blacktress brunch here at my house. And it was like maybe 20 of us.
I love that.
Just amazing women in the room. Nikki Bahari was there, Simone Missick, just like Charisse Booth, like amazing actresses, all in this up and coming. People already had their own TV shows. And it was so successful that then I did it a year later. But this time I said just women of color in general.
Yeah.
And like close to 100 women showed up to this thing. And in the middle of this thing, we sat in a circle and I said, can we just go around the circle and everyone talk about what's the other thing you're trying to get done? It doesn't have to be just in acting. And everyone in the room had other things that they were up to. And what I realized in that was that everyone was one, like, I was like, what do you need? I know someone who can help you with that. What? I know that. And then there was a woman there who used to be an actress who started her own like tech company, and
Yeah.
it turned into a Shark Tank where she was like, "Oh, you know what you should do with that idea? You can do da da da, and you can talk to the and da da da," and it just sort of. And I thought, oh, y'all. So I get it. The only time we get to come together is on red carpets. No wonder we can't do business.
Oof.
I said, okay, so I'm gonna keep having these little events and see what comes of it. And then
Yeah.
it was, you know what? I'll put together a portal where we can all connect easier. And my favorite thing in life is to put other people on. It is like an
Yeah.
addiction for me. I love it. Just give me the opportunity to introduce you to hopefully your creative match in the industry.
Yes.
And
I
that's
love
all
that
it is.
I love that so much. First of all, I just feel like our networks are, for, you know, not to sound cliche, but our networks are our net worth in terms of we have a lot of the resources that we
Yes.
need. So
Yes.
being able to professionalize or formalize it is huge. It's huge. And I love that.
Huge. How do we put together our own fund so we don't have to beg other people?
Well, we need
fund
to
our
talk,
thing?
honey, because we have the honey fund over here that we have our soft launch. And so we need to chit chat.
Oh my gosh, please. You know, a part of my wish in this industry was even like, if the managers or certain managers were like, you know what, instead of 10%, I keep 5, you put the other 5 in this fund. If we all just took 5% and put it in a fund, and then we had our own account of like, okay, everyone who put in, so now let's see what scripts, put a script in and let's roll the dice and we get to vote on like what's great. Or we create a community. Everyone gets to read these scripts in this community. And
yes. I love that.
I think we're in a very exciting time.
I
And
am too.
Talitha
I'm
Watkins,
super excited.
Talitha, I'm gonna stop talking. This is what Talitha Watkins said today, who is now my manager, and she said,
"Oh, fantastic! Color Creative."
Yes, oh my goodness, and she said, for some people, there's a ladder in chaos. Chaos can be a ladder, and for people who are marginalized, we understand how to work in those conditions. We know how to work with less, but make more out of it. You know, and I'm like, so for people like us, it's like it's just another Tuesday. Oh, the industry's falling apart. It's just Tuesday. It's just Tuesday.
It's so true. And I also just think it's exciting to be able to foster more direct and genuine relationships with our audience. And there's so many opportunities to do that. And one thing I will say is I feel a lot of synergy with you because wanting to help the industry and wanting to help others. But my question is, what is your burning dream project or dream role? What is that thing that you want to get off the ground or made or star in?
Oh, easy. Okay. I got 4 projects. No, I do have a lot of projects actually, but the main, there's so many projects that are around me, but I think maybe it's like narrowed down to 2, maybe the one is like, I so want to do a rom-com. Like people don't know how funny I am.
Yay! Well, I'm like, I will think about you, Connie, because I love rom-coms.
Please, but please think of me. And I have a rom-com right now that I commissioned someone to write. We sort of wrote it together.
Amazing.
And it's like Romancing the Stone meets Love Island. Like
I love Romancing the Stone.
Yes.
I love that.
And I wanted a Black woman to be like in an adventure, like out in the, out in the tropics, but she's still sexy, but will she or won't she with this other guy? And but it's funny.
I've always wanted to do a remake of Romancing the Stone. So I love to hear that. That is amazing. And I love that. I love the fullness of your life right now as a honey. Like you have your fullness of art, both on stage, acting, but also as an artist. Then you have your fullness of wife and mother, your fullness as entrepreneur, and your fullness as producer, right? Making the projects that you want to see in the world. So I love that. Actually, so I think that's such a great way to move into one of our segments called the pleasure principle. So 2 of our words at Honey Child are desire and pleasure, and we define them very expansively. Anything that you want and anything that makes us feel good. So I'm wondering, what does pleasure seeking look like to you?
It feels like It feels like that, pleasure seeking. I feel like my life is nothing but pleasure seeking. It's like this feeling of like, it feels dangerous because it's just too good. It like exceeds all expectations. That's what
Yes.
pleasure seeking
Ooh,
is.
I love that. Feels so good. Tell us one of your deepest desires at this age.
Deepest desire right now. What's funny is I turned 45 this month.
Yeah, I turn
And
45 next month, honey.
hello, welcome. Okay. Listen,
Yes.
that whole thing of like, it gets greater later. That's what Bevy Smith says.
Yes.
And I really feel like something in my life has happened that has really made me be like, if not now, then never. Like, do it now. I really feel like right now, if I just got up and said, everybody, I have to have a night alone on a hotel. Peace out.
Yeah.
Like, I really feel like I'm allowed to go and do and be. Life is so fragile. I don't know if it's the chaos in the world,
Yeah.
COVID. So my deepest desire, I feel like I really am living in it. That's why I am painting. That's why I am producing. That's why, you know what's so crazy? I got rid of my reps just recently. And it's because my deepest desire was, it felt like I'm not being seen. Well, then what happens if you get rid of it? What about if you go find people who really see you? That was my deepest desire, to be seen by my creative team. And
I
now
feel that
I've
deeply.
got
I feel that deeply, honey. Deep, deep, deep.
Well, and if I had to sit on a soapbox, this is what I would say. If no one on your team looks like you, that's part one of why you don't feel satisfied. Okay? Because if you gotta translate 10 different ways, amen.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Okay, so for some honey reflections, the name of our show is It's Good Over Here. So tell us you kind of told us something that's getting better. So tell us, what would you tell your younger self?
I would say, girl, all these people who think you are fake, it's because some people are born to be the projection onto other people. And so when people tell you what you are, just know 90% of that is a projection of themselves. So feel free and unattached to how people see you. Be more concerned about, do you like what you see, and follow that. Like, if you need a nap, take it. Okay, don't let patriarchy tell you can't take these naps. Okay,
Naps save lives, honey. I feel like my naps save lives.
They do. They lower your chance of blood pressure and heart attack by 30% just by napping. Don't let this patriarchy. My dad said before he died, we have it all wrong. Women should have been leading the entire time. And my dad was like a 6'7", beautiful, Jacksonville's first black digital news reporter. Like, you couldn't tell this man nothing. He was the first in this and this and that. And for him to say that at the end, I feel like that like shifted my whole perspective. I was like, thank you. So they're all frauds. And he was like, they're all frauds. They don't know what they're doing either. So I would tell my younger self, they don't know either, Cassie. They're bluffing.
Either.
And so much of my life is about people trying to bluff me. I always say, if my life has been about feeling out emotions, how can you gaslight me and tell me what I feel is wrong? What I feel is true. What I feel is true. So I'm here for the upheaval of humanity and to say, what you say is wrong, what I say is right. What you say is wrong, what I say is right. Because too many of us that look like us have to always cower down to, yeah, you might be right. No, they wrong. And they know they're wrong. It's a bluff. Life's a poker game. They got a handful of threes, don't even know what to do with them. We over here with Jacks and Kings and Queens.
Kings and Queens, honey. I love that. So last question, what do you swear by as a honey? It could be beauty, health, rituals. What's one thing you swear by?
Well, every woman should own a red light, okay? Because for beauty, the red light, honey, will allow the effervescence to shine through.
Yes, I have to give me a red light then.
Run, do not walk, okay? I'm just so amazed with how much it's transformed my skin. It's just made it smooth. And you see a pimple coming, it will make the pimple go away. And then if it comes and leaves a mark, it will make it disappear.
Wow.
Like, it's just the red light. And the other thing is, what's really guided me is also what my dad told me. A lot of this is dedicated to Mac Freeman, everybody, which is, my dad used to say, you can be the most beautiful woman in the room or the most interesting. It's up to you. And I've always opted to be the most interesting. So that's why I'm like so open to like following my bliss, even if it makes no sense to anyone. It'll all make sense later.
Thank you so much, Cassandra Freeman, for being with us. Is there anything that you want to promote? Anything where the folks could find you? You want to share?
Oh, well, soon I'll be selling some of my art. So stay tuned.
Oh, please let me know. I would love to be on that first list to get an original.
Thank you.
Honey,
Yeah,
yes.
I have a totally quiet Instagram page where I show some of my work. Not all of it, but some of it I tease out there. But yeah, soon I'm going to put it out there. So maybe sweatshirts. I'm on TikTok, and my TikTok family was like, oh my God, sell these as sweatshirts. And I was like, really? So I might sell some prints and some sweatshirts for fun.
I love that.
Isn't that crazy?
Fantastic. Well, this has been so amazing. Thank you for
thank you so much for having this space for us. Thank you for being a writer, giving life and purpose to those of us who are out here who are acting. Like, you make it all feel so fun to be an actor. Every time I find a writer like you in my life, I'm like, thank you. It's like Christmas again.
Thank you. That means the world. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of It's Good Over Here, a celebration of how good life can get on the other side of 40. This podcast is a Honey Child thing, so don't forget to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at It's Honey Child. Visit our website at honey-child.com and subscribe to our bi-weekly newsletter, A Taste of Honey. And for bonus content and other exclusive Honey Dip stories, subscribe to our Pay What You Wish Patreon, The Honeycomb. Until next time, honeys, it's good over here. You coming? Hey, honeys, have you signed up for our newsletter? A Taste of Honey delivers right to your inbox bi-weekly and is full of honey news, conversation, and shenanigans. Sign up now at honey-child.com. That's honey-child.com.